Namaskar, good afternoon. You're watching Newsroom 365 and I'm Swati Joshi.
I'm Kritsween Walia. Let's quickly start with the exclusive we're getting you this afternoon. Remember, in 2017, Times Now exposed the Congress cash diary, a ripped-up diary recovered from one of the Congress Chief Minister contenders, DK Shivakumar, with notings of 3 crores AICC. Now, Times Now's meticulous revealed the political shield to the corrupt under Congress's Siddaramaiah, and we asked where the money trail led.
Well, in fact, today, Times Now will reveal the systematic subversion of the fight against graft under the Congress party. It's not us saying this. It's in fact the Karnataka High Court which has blown the lid. The court has abolished the ACB that was set up 6 years back and has called it a bid to set up a parallel body to weaken the Lokayukta. So why did the then Congress Sarkar weaken the anti-graft body? Whom was the government trying to protect back then?
All right, so those are the details that Times Now is getting for you. But yes, this is a big story that we're tracking here this afternoon, because remember, the Karnataka High Court has now, in a path-breaking order, abolished the Anti-Corruption Bureau and strengthened the institution of Lokayukta to fight corruption in the state. So questions being asked of the Congress, certainly. Let me quickly first up go across to Deepak joining us with more the details. Deepak, this is certainly a path-breaking move that the Karnataka High Court has gone ahead with. If you could just quickly highlight the key takeaways first up.
Well, most importantly, the Lokayukta, which in Karnataka has been seen for multiple years now as an institution that will truly fight corruption, be it the chief minister, be it any minister, or be it the biggest of bureaucrats. The people had some sort of an assurance in this institution that it will fight the corrupt. If the poor go knock the doors of the Lokayukta, even the mighty can be brought down if they are corrupt. So, you know, the entire institution itself was subdued in 2016 when a body called the Anti-Corruption Bureau, which came directly under the Chief Minister of Karnataka, was, formulated here. And, the police powers of the Lokayukta was taken away. Technically, they couldn't really investigate, freely. They couldn't, execute, cases where they had to, go ahead and investigate against, corrupt politicians or bureaucrats. So, their powers were inhibited and the wings of the Lokayukta was clipped. Now, PIL, of course, has been going on in the Karnataka High Court, and yesterday the order that came out is quite massive, because the order says that all the powers of the Lokayukta will be restored, which means the police wing will be reinstated, the Anti-Corruption Bureau is abolished, and more importantly, all the cases that are currently with the Anti-Corruption Bureau will go back to the Lokayukta. Now, the question really here is, a lot of politics has been going on around the institution of the Lokayukta, while of course the Congress, brought this into being. The BJP at that point in time, which was in opposition, cried foul and said this was the way of the corrupt Congress government to hide their wrongdoings by formulating the Anti-Corruption Bureau, which would report to the Chief Minister and any other top ministers in the state. Now, they in their manifesto in 2018 said that they would abolish this institution.
Absolutely.
But of course,
Deepak,
a lot
as
of
far as the court's order is concerned, let's go across to Meghna to get a sense of the scathing observations made while abolishing the ACB. Yes, Meghna.
Well, these are damning observations. Now, remember, these arguments are not being put forth by us. It is something that the Karnataka High Court, having gone through the facts of this case, has said. And look at some of the damning indictments which are coming in for the Siddaramaiah government. It says that the ACB, to shield the corrupt ministers, politicians and officers, it was being used. It goes on to say, and we are going to go on to the next pointer as well, where you can see that it was shielding it from the watchful eyes of the Lokayukta. We are going to press continue on these graphics so that we can go on to the next move as well. But it very categorically says that the Karnataka Lokayukta could have improved the quality, and instead of directly increasing the powers of the Karnataka Lokayukta, what we had was a parallel institution of the ACB was being made. I believe there's a bit of a problem with the graphics, but we are going to get you all the details of what has happened. It says that the corrupt were being shielded from the watchful eyes of the Lokayukta. It then goes on to say that weakening of the Lokayukta was to protect them from persecution of the persecuting authorities as well as the courts. Also, it said that the scope for the misuse of the ACB by the Chief Minister to control his political opponents. This is something which is being said, remember, by the Karnataka High Court itself. It then goes on to say in damning indictment that the possibility was to favor the party or the party men with the ACB. So who really was being favored? That is something that Siddharth will be telling us as well. But it also says that the ACB directly diluted the functioning of the Lokayukta. Then it goes on to say that the government could have strengthened the Lokayukta instead of trying to make a parallel body of the ACB, that the executive government order clearly depicts that Chief Minister is supreme. If that is the case, then how are the Chief Minister and his cabinet coming under the ACB's ambit? That is one of the problems. Then it says that the ACB was formed on recommendation from the DG and the IG. It then has scrapped the ACB. The Karnataka High Court has said that the impugned order was erroneous and it is contrary to the Karnataka Legislative Act. And it has scrapped the ACB with this scathing observation, saying the formation of the ACB defeated the purpose of the Lokayukta. Also went on to say that it created a parallel body to the institution of the Lokayukta itself, which is why the ACB as of today stands scrapped. But more importantly, if this ACB was brought in erroneous to the Karnataka Legislative Act, what was the reason behind it? What was the motive? And it was shielding the corrupt. Then who are these corrupt who are being shielded are the questions.
Absolutely. And government after government have gone ahead and shielded the constitution of the ACB. That's the big question here. But first up, let's quickly play out the reaction from former Chief Minister of Karnataka and senior Congress leader Siddaramaiah, who very conveniently shifted the onus on the BJP.
I respect the decision of the High Court. It is for the government to take a decision. Our government is not there. Anti-Corruption Bureau is existing in so many states, not only in Karnataka. In Gujarat also, there is an anti-corruption bureau. The circumstances were different when it was constituted. Now, the High Court has taken a decision that abolishing the government order. I welcome it.
So that was, of course, Siddaramaiah, the former Chief Minister of Karnataka, welcoming the judgment of the Karnataka High Court. But it also has to be mentioned here that the BJP in the 2018 election manifesto for Karnataka had actually proclaimed that they will abolish the ACB the moment they come to power. That did not happen. In fact, the voluminous judgment of the Karnataka High Court details the submissions made by the Advocate General of Karnataka under the current BJP dispensation, where it has actually defended the establishment of the ACB and called for its continuance. But what's also very important here to mention is the fact that the voluminous judgment of the Karnataka High Court also lists out the several people over the years who were examined by the Karnataka Lokayukta, and then recommendations had been made against them under section 12(3) of the Karnataka Lokayukta Act, which talks about partly or wholly substantiated allegations which are then recommended to the state government. Now, some of those names are, and I'll quote them, it's H.S. Mahadeva Prasad of the Congress, who's now deceased, Mr. Krishna Bairegoda of the Congress Party, Mr. Raju K., a former JDS MLA, now with the Congress, Y.A. Narayanaswamy of the BJP, and Shrikant Ghotnekar, again of the Congress Party. So all these individuals, their names had been forwarded by the Karnataka Lokayukta over time to the governments of the day to proceed against them, claiming that partly or wholly the allegations against them could in fact be substantiated. So the point of the Karnataka High Court while listing out these names was that, look, the Lokayukta does have teeth. It can proceed against serving ministers, MLAs, members of parliaments, as well as bureaucrats. However, in contrast, once the ACB was established in the year 2016 by the then Karnataka state government under the Congress, it did not proceed against any minister, any MP, any MLA, or any MLC. The point of the Karnataka High Court was that once you formed the ACB, you did absolutely nothing to proceed against public servants. But while the Karnataka Karnataka Lokayukta Act was very much in operation. The Lokayukta did show its mettle and did proceed against politicians as well as those who faced allegations of corruption. That important distinction was made by the Karnataka High Court during its dismantling of the ACB and upholding the powers of the Lokayukta.
Right, so that's the fact. What is interesting is that the BJP government has defended the ACB before the courts. Let's first listen into the Chief Minister of Karnataka.
ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ACB ಒಂದು ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಆಗಿದೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಪಕ್ಷದ ಪ್ರಣಾಳಿಕೆ ಆ ಪಕ್ಷದ ಪ್ರಣಾಳಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಗಮನದಲ್ಲಿಟ್ಟುಕೊಂಡು ಇವತ್ತು ಕ್ಯಾಬಿನೆಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಸೂಚನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಆ ಮೂಲ ಪ್ರತಿ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇದೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಕ್ಯಾಬಿನೆಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಏನು BJPಯ ಪ್ರಣಾಳಿಕೆ ಇದೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಆಧರಿಸಿನೇ ಮುಂದಿನೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳಿ.